Bob and I, this was the third picture that we had collaborated on, and we'd had wonderful previews on all our films. Our first two films, which weren't successful at the box office, had tremendous previews. So I got very nervous once the previews were good, because I knew I had this movie that I knew that the world would really enjoy seeing, and yet as a filmmaker, that's the thing that is very much out of your control. And the decisions that we made 18 months earlier, making a movie about time travel, making a movie with Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd, all those things that would make someone want to go see the movie, those decisions now were coming to either work for us or haunt us, either way, and luckily in our case they all worked.
I guess we finished in March or April. I went away to the beach, to the Caribbean for a couple of weeks, and then I went right away to go do a TV movie, Family Ties Goes to London. So I'm in England, and I just get a phone call from my agents saying, this is the biggest movie in America. It will soon be the biggest movie in the world. And I didn't even know what that meant. I thought, oh, that's nice. They said, no, you don't understand. This is huge. This is massive. I was like, oh, yeah, cool, great, good. You know, I'll do better next time. I'll try to do a better job. And then I came back to the States, and at that point I was fairly well known from television, but it just was a whole different thing. All of a sudden I had people camping out in my yard. It was different.
Are we back?
The sequel actually was a long time coming. I guess it was 5 years between the time we did Back to the Future and said about doing 2 and 3. Once we saw the response to the movie, it was a foregone conclusion it was going to happen. And I remember having conversations with Bob about what it would be about. And so, you know, it's something I look forward to.
Marty! You've got to come back with me!
Where?
Back to the future!
We had never designed the first Back to the Future to have a sequel. The flying car at the end was a joke, and it worked as a great joke and a great payoff. Everyone assumed that we had this grand design like George Lucas did about Star Wars to have all these sequels. My only hope for Back to the Future ever was that it would make its money back. Obviously, I wasn't designing the movie for a sequel, because if I was, I never would have put the girlfriend in the car, because that became a gigantic problem in writing the sequels, and I would have only had the Doc and Marty be in the car. Then I could have put them on any adventure. But what happens is that when you make a movie that's this successful, it becomes a piece of real estate, it becomes a franchise. And the reality comes at you very quickly, which is we're making a sequel, and you guys can either help us or not, but the sequel is going to be made.
What the hell is going on here?
When the studio said we'd like to make a sequel, are you guys up for that? We said, okay, in order for us to make a sequel, we need to have Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd commit to it. As long as we know that we would have those guys in the movie, yes, we will make a sequel. So Sid and Sheinberg immediately got to work and made deals with Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd, and it was easy. They said, hey, Bob and Bob are doing it, fine, we're in. And then Bob and I said, all right, why do people want to go to a sequel? They want to go to a sequel to see the characters that they fell in love with in the first one. So let's see how many characters from the first movie we can get back and be able to deal with in the sequel. Leah Thompson said yes, absolutely. Bob and Bob, no question. Tom Wilson said absolutely. Crispin Glover, a little different story. Crispin decided that he wanted all kinds of things that were way out of line for an actor at this point in his career. And the agent called me up to tell me this, because as a producer I was doing the preliminary negotiations. And I said to her, look, please go back to your client, tell him that Bob and I want him in the movie, everybody else wants to be in the movie, and come back to me with a reasonable offer. And if I don't hear from you in 2 weeks, I'm just going to assume that you're not interested. 2 weeks goes by and she calls me back and says he's not going to budge on this deal. So we said, okay, fine, we'll make the movie without him. And this is the great power that you have as a writer. If somebody can't do the movie, you write them out. So this whole idea of this alternate 1985 in which George McFly is a tombstone really came about because we knew that we had Leah Thompson, we had Tom Wilson, we didn't have Crispin Glover. So how do we write them out? Let's create this weird world where George McFly is dead. And that's how the creative